So to do Hummingbird, you're going to first start off by learning this one-hand cut that I call Flutter, which you do on the non-dominant hand. You're going to begin with a small packet of around 10 to 15 cards held in dealer's grip. You're going to have your thumb on the top left corner and your pinky on the bottom right. You're going to use these two fingers to drag out a small packet from the bottom. While you're doing so, you're going to curl your middle finger behind this top packet. So you have the top packet clipped between your index on the short edge, ring on the right, and middle in the back. Notice that the ring at this point is closer to this bottom short edge, and that's going to be changing in a bit. So once you're here, you're going to press downwards with your ring finger, flipping this packet back here face up. Once you're here, you're going to extend your index, middle, and ring fingers towards yourself, like so. Notice that as I did that, the ring finger has shifted from closer to this bottom short edge towards this corner over here. And that's because as you're extending this, the index finger is pushing this packet while the middle and ring slide along this edge. So here's what that looks like without this top packet. So it was originally clipped like this. Your index pushes, which allows your middle and ring to both slide along this edge so that you have a grip closer to the corner. So this allows you to extend this packet pretty far back. Once you're here, you're also going to straighten your index, middle, and ring, like so. Then you want to flip this packet over here by letting go of your index and simultaneously rolling your ring finger on top of your middle, like so. While you do so, this packet might momentarily be a bit messy, but it's going to naturally square up later, so you don't have to worry about it too much. So what's going to happen now is that you're going to pull this packet back down, and it's going to be sliding along this pinky, and that should also help it square up. So you're going to bring it down like so, and you're going to extend your index finger so that you can catch this packet on the short edge over here. Right? So as the packet falls, it is resting on your index and middle on the two edges, so it naturally squares up, and you have your ring finger curled in the back. And with this ring finger, you're going to extend outwards, and you're going to pull back in to flip this top packet face down again. Once you're here, you're similarly going to be pushing this bottom packet towards yourself again with your index finger, and your middle and ring will slide along this long edge towards this corner. So here's what that looks like without this packet on top. You're pushing with your index while these two fingers slide along this edge. So once again with the top packet, you're pushing through, and once you get here, your index should no longer be in contact with this packet. Okay? So it's simply clipped between your middle and ring. You're going to flip this packet face down again by rolling your ring finger on top of your middle like so. Okay? Once you're here, you're going to clip down with your index so that this packet is clipped between your index, middle in the back, and ring. Once you're here, you're going to drag this packet to the right until it reaches your palm, and then you're just going to let go of the top packet so that the two packets square up. And that completes Flutter. Once you've mastered Flutter, you're ready to learn Hummingbird. To begin, you want about half the deck held in a modified end grip. So the standard end grip looks like this. But instead of this, you want your left hand holding the deck in what is basically dealer's grip. The only difference is that your index is shifted slightly to the left to make room for these fingers here on the right. Once you have this grip, you're going to break off a small packet off the top with your right middle, and you're going to transfer it to your right pinky, contacting the top right corner over here. With your pinky, you're going to pull downwards, splitting off this packet held between the pinky and your left palm over here. You're then going to make sure your left thumb and left pinky are contacting the top left and bottom right corners of the base packet so that you can bring your left hand upwards, keeping this top packet in place with the right ring until you can use your right thumb and middle to contact these two corners of this packet. Once you're here, you're going to use your tip of your thumb to split off about half of what's here. You're then going to retain a small break with your left middle and ring, which will then allow you to then re-grip with your thumb with a deeper grip. Once you have that, you're going to split off this packet. You're going to bring your left hand downwards and begin to do flutter. As you're doing that, you're going to bring your right hand in front of the left hand. And this is so that you can use your left thumb to spin this packet on the right hand like so, as you're doing flutter, until you get to this point over here. Once you're here, you want to be flipping this packet on the right hand with your index, pulling like so. And you also want to continue doing flutter on the left hand so that these two packets flip simultaneously like so. Once they've flipped, you're going to bring your left hand back down, continuing to do flutter. As that's happening, you're going to use your right ring to flip this center packet face up just by extending the finger. Then you're going to extend your right index to flip this packet face down so that your left thumb can come over and contact the long edge of this packet and spin it again as you continue to do flutter until you get to this point over here where you once again want to flip these two packets simultaneously. This packet up here and this packet on your right hand with your index in the same way. So that looks like this. Once you've done that, you're going to bring your left hand back down and complete flutter. And once again, you're going to flip this center packet with your right ring just by extending it like so. Then you're going to extend your right index again so that your left thumb can come over and contact the long edge of this packet over here and spin it until it can merge with the base packet like so. Once you're here, you're going to use your left pinky over here to then push downwards on this packet so that it flips face up. Then your left thumb is going to come in and once again push it inwards so that it flips right over the base packet, and you simply bring your pinky down to close the packet. And that completes Hummingbird. Okay, so here are a bunch of tips on both how to learn this move and also how to perform it so that it looks as good as possible. So the first tip, which should be an obvious one, is to just rewatch the tutorial a bunch of times because there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of details of when to flip each packet. So the sequencing of that is going to be tough to remember if you don't rewatch the tutorial a lot of times. And in particular, you want to be following along with the slow motion because with the verbal explanation, as I'm pointing out things that are happening, I will have to make pauses here and there. So the timing of those things might not be as perfect as in the slow motion, which will be much closer to the pacing of me doing the move in real time. So make sure you also follow along with the slow motion multiple times and repeat until you have the move down. So this next tip is to pay close attention to the thickness of each packet as well as the deck as a whole. So like I mentioned earlier in the tutorial, you should be aiming to do the move with about half a deck. That's the thickness that I've gotten used to. But if you're starting out, you could probably justify using less because basically every packet in this move is a corner grip, either a corner grip or some weird claw thing where you have to flip to. So with more cards, this move becomes much harder to do. So I recommend starting with less and eventually working your way up to about half the deck. As for the individual packets, I want to note that this packet on the right hand between the thumb and middle finger should be the thickest out of them all, because this flip over here, this spin over here is a very common spin that you do for a lot of moves, and it's much easier to do with a thicker packet. Whereas the two packets for Flutter, those should be the thinnest, because this packet in particular that you have to flip, if it's thick, it's really easy for this to get very messy or for cards to slide off. So you want these two packets to be the thinnest. So starting from this third tip onwards, we're going to be shifting our focus to how to make the move look as good as possible. And so this tip is to pay close attention to the relative position of the two hands, because by design the move has a very left-right, back and forth flow. And so sometimes the right hand will be on top, while at other times the left hand will be on top. And it actually interchanges quite a bit throughout the move. So I'm going to be running through the move again, and I'll be noting when each hand is on top. So in the beginning, the right hand is on top as you make this first split. Then the left hand comes on top for this second split. Then as you do the first part of Flutter, because you need gravity, so the left hand has to move back down, so the right hand is on top here. Then the left hand moves on top for this first pass through of Flutter, and it stays on top as you do these two flips. Then the right hand moves on top as you have to bring this packet back down on the left hand. Then as this packet is going through again for Flutter, your left hand moves back on top. Then right hand moves back on top as you close Flutter. Then left hand moves on top to close this packet, and right hand comes back on top to close this last packet. So here's an important tip to make this move look better. As you're doing this portion of the move over here, with this packet coming through, you want this packet to reach as high up as possible while keeping most of the other packets at around the same space. Okay? And you want to create this almost like uppercut-like effect. So here's an example of me just going through the motions and not really applying this tip. Okay? And here's me trying to apply the tip and reach as high as possible with the left hand. I think it's a subtle difference, but it makes the move look much more dynamic. So this last tip is going to be on tempo and pacing while performing the move. And in this regard, I actually think that there's a lot of room for people to experiment and add their own personal style into it. But I'm just going to quickly go through how I like to do it. And that's basically starting very slow for the opener, ramping up right before the first spin, achieving max speed during the first spin, and sustaining that throughout the rest of the move. So here's what that looks like. Start slow over here. I speed up over here, max speed by first spin, sustain it until the close. And I think that's all the tips for this move.